You're watching Trending Tonight. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. So announcements have been made by the Maharashtra Chief Minister. There was a feeling that eventually a lockdown is going to be announced. But short of lockdown, everything possible has now been done in Maharashtra. Through the course of this broadcast, we'll look at each of those cases and we'll go in great detail as to what exactly has been done. But the two important questions that are going to be asked of the Chief Minister and also generally post these curbs. Number one, can these curbs contain the spread of COVID-19? The most important point. Can these curbs, the exemptions list, given the exemptions list, can you contain the spread? And point number two, which is very crucial, there is a huge and a long list of categories that are exempt. In that case, will implementation not become a problem on the ground? So these are the two questions that we are going to pose to an expert panel in just a short moment. Let's first listen in to what the Chief Minister had to say.
कडक पावलं उचलण्याची आवश्यकता आणि ती वेळ तो क्षण आलेला आहे. मग काय करायचं? मी एकदम काही लॉकडाऊन असं म्हणत नाहीये, पण काही निर्बंध हे साधारणतः त्या सदृश्य आहेत. कारण ही साखळी जर का तुटली नाही तर ही साखळी आपल्याला पूर्ण गुरफटून गुंबरून टाकल्याशिवाय राहणार नाही. आपल्याला रोजीरोटी महत्त्वाची आहेच, त्याहीबद्दल मी बोलणार आहे. पण रोजीरोटीच्या बरोबरीने आधी जीव वाचवायला पाहिजे. जीव वाचलं तर सगळं काही आहे आणि जीव वाचवणं हाच आता समोरचा महत्त्वाचा मुद्दा आहे. आणि तो वाचवण्यासाठी मी पुन्हा एकदा सगळ्यांना हात जोडून विनंती करतो आहे की आजपर्यंत जी काही निर्बंध आपण टाकलेले होते त्या निर्बंधात आता आपण अधिक वाढ करतो आहोत. आणि हे निर्बंध उद्या 8 वाजल्यापासून संध्याकाळी 8 वाजल्यापासून आपल्या राज्यात लागू होतील. आणि त्याच्यासाठी मी माननीय पंतप्रधानांना काही विनंत्या करतो आहे. त्या बाकीच्या तर मी आपल्याकडे सांगतोच, पण एक विनंती मी त्यांना करतो आहे ज्याच्याबद्दल मी अधिकृत पत्र पण लिहितोय की ही रस्त्याने आता ऑक्सिजन आणेपर्यंत आमच्याकडे फार विचित्र परिस्थिती निर्माण झालेली आहे. मला कल्पना नाही असं करता येणं शक्य आहे का. असेल तर आपल्याला लष्करी तज्ञांची मदत घेऊन जर हवाई वाहतुकीने आमच्याकडे ऑक्सिजन आणू शकलो आपण आणि आणू शकत असू तर कृपा करून आम्हाला नुसती परवानगी नाही तर एअरफोर्सला सांगून आम्हाला मदत करायचे तसे आदेश द्या.
Joining us right now is NDTV's Sohit Mishra, who holds a position of authority as of this moment because he has crisscrossed the length and breadth of Maharashtra to get us multiple reports on the true impact of this sudden surge, the second wave. Sohit is in a position of authority to be able to tell us whether these steps or these restrictions were the need of the hour or whether they are actually going to work or not. Sohit, first of all, let's begin by you telling us what all are the categories that are exempt as far as these curbs are concerned.
Well, Sanket, there are a lot of things that has been exempted from this. So if I look at the list that has been shared from the government right now, be it the hospitals, diagnostic centers, clinics, vaccination, so the entire hospital as well as the entire healthcare is being exempted. It is in the essential category. Be it veterinary scientists, services, animal care, shelters and pet food dogs, groceries, vegetable shops, fruit vendors, cold storage, public transport, airplanes, taxis, trains, autos and public buses. Now remember, although these are included in the essential services, only people who belong to the essential services are able to board, will be allowed to board these public transport. Apart from that, services related to functioning of offices of diplomats, pre-monsoon activities, public services by local authorities, Reserve Bank of India, offices of SEBI, services required for restoration, transport of goods, water supply services. So there are several such things which also includes accredited media, petrol pumps, petroleum related products, all cargo services, data centers, and the list goes on, which includes banks as well as other things as well. So mostly these things which have financial importance or which is important essentially, or which holds a position with the healthcare, all those things are exempted. So these are the things that are exempted, Sanket. But right now, as I was saying, I am in Pune, and Pune was the first district which started the mini lockdown, way before when a mini lockdown was announced in Maharashtra. But despite that, what I can say is yesterday there were more than 9,000 cases there were 86 deaths in 24 hours. Day before that, there were 87 deaths in 24 hours. Now in Pune, Section 144 is imposed. Before this decision, Section 144 is imposed throughout the day. During the night, there is night curfew, but despite that, what we see, and even in the morning I reported that in the markets the people are stepping out in large numbers, and that is the reason now Section 144 has been imposed throughout the day. But will this be helpful, Sanket? This is a big question. Now another thing which I would like to point out before you move forward is that I visited few farmers. I went to their fields. Now on paper they say that the markets are open, but what happens in reality is there are no buyers that come over there, due to which the prices of, be it flowers, fruits, vegetables, they have fallen drastically. So I'll give you an example. One single rose that used to be sold for 10 rupees, as of now it is being sold for 30 paise, which means 10 bunches of a bunch of 10 roses are being sold for 3 rupees. 20 to 25 kgs of tomatoes, which means a crate of tomatoes which earlier used to be sold for 200 to 250 rupees, is currently being sold for 10 to 30 rupees. So the farmers are also being impacted by this. So although there are being rules made that there will be several services that will be exempted and they will be allowed to move forward, will this actually help, and will this actually create an impact? Because as I said, there is Section 144 imposed in Pune, there is night curfew that is imposed in Pune, but despite that, what we are saying is there has been more than 86 deaths yesterday. There is Section 144 imposed, in fact, in Maharashtra throughout the day. Today we are seeing more than 60,000 cases. So it would be very important to see that will these new restrictions.
Correct. Will these new restrictions work or not? But so that's exactly the point that I wanted to ask you. On the basis of your experience and your travel across Maharashtra, and you have traveled extensively, NDTV Sohit Mishra, as you can see, has gone from place to place and got you lots and lots of stories, has traveled 1100 kilometers actually from Nashik rural, Ahmednagar, Aurangabad. The PMC war room also right now is in Pune. So, two questions. Can these curbs contain the spread of COVID-19? You briefly answered that question, that at least in micro-containment formats, this has not proven to be very effective. And secondly, will imposing these curbs, will it not be a huge challenge on the authorities with a long list of exemptions? Exemptions are required, but then how do you check that a person who's out on the road is not part of this list?
Well, Sanket, I'll give you an example. Even before this, when local trains in Mumbai were only allowed for only essential services, I know people who had made fake bank ID cards, who had made fake essential cards, and they used to travel in that. So people actually have a solution for everything. So it would be very important to see that how effectively or how strictly do the authorities actually implement these things, because there are people who will always know how to break these rules. Number one. Number two, what I have understood is, as of now, people aren't scared. Which used to happen in the first lockdown. So people are roaming freely. They are seeing their leaders, campaigning in other states, and they are saying if they can campaign, if they can go out, we can go out too. This is one example which I have heard everywhere. So how would the government be able to change the mindset of the people, make them understand that yes, this is a very important thing that is happening, and if you don't follow these rules, the number of cases will increase. We already don't have beds in the hospitals. We already don't have, be it remdesivir injection, be it oxygen, be it ventilators. So how important it would be to see that how does actually be it the local collectors or the MLAs or the MPs, will there be a conversation through which they will actually make people understand that yes, this is very important? Because one aspect why the cases are rising is because people as of now are not scared by this disease, are not scared by this pandemic, by the second wave, which is also a big reason why the cases are increasing. So while these rules have been made, it would be very important to see that only and only people who actually belong to these essential services should be allowed to travel or should be allowed to go from place to place.
Correct. I think that the most important point that you seem to be mentioning is that people are not scared enough of this virus. I mean, if this does not scare them, then one really wonders what will. When you look at those pictures, you realize that nobody should have to go through a situation like this, where there are no oxygen cylinders, a massive shortage of remdesivir, which was first highlighted by your report. But thank you so much, Sohit, for getting us these comprehensive reports, and keep getting us these reports as they throw great light as to how serious this problem really is. Mr. Zorawar Kalra, he's the member and the managing committee of the NRAI, National Restaurant Association of India, is with us. We also have Mr. Sameer Dalwai, NCP spokesperson, Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, of the Dean of KEM Hospital. Thank you very much, Dr. Deshmukh, for joining us, and Asif Bhamla, spokesperson of BJP Maharashtra. Thank you to all of you all. We'll first begin with Mr. Kalra. Mr. Kalra, these steps that have been taken are not out of perhaps a very comfortable situation. These are steps being taken by the state government because things became very, very difficult and out of hand. Do you see your industry or yourself as a casualty today?
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. Without a doubt, this crisis appears to be even larger than the first one, and we all knew that the first one was existential in nature to begin with. Absolutely, steps have to be taken. Cases going out of control, there is only little that can happen. But to answer your point specifically, yes, our industry is going to be a major casualty. You have to understand that our industry is actually a very important industry, essential to the cogs of the machinery and the economy of this country. We contribute between 2 to 3% of the country's GDP. We talk about the world's fifth largest economy, $2.9 trillion economy. We contribute between 2 to 3%. We're the second largest employer of human capital in India after agriculture, with direct employment of 7.8 million. That's 78 lakh people. And that's just direct. That does not include ancillary industries such as entertainment, music, vendors support, importers, exporters, all of those kind of people that rely on our industry to survive. And let me just put it this way, that along with aviation and the hotel sector, the restaurant industry has been the hardest hit. Last year was, I don't know how we survived. It was the end of the road for a lot of people. You've already known 30 to 35% restaurants shut down. This second wave of measures, lockdowns, which again I'm saying, I understand the reason. The most important aspect for everybody, not just in our industry, but for any industry, is to first take care of society, take care of this nation. Self-interest have to come second. But the fact of the matter is that some of these measures that are going to be taken are going to be very bad for the industry. It might be the end of the road for a lot of people. I think some form of policy framework is required. I think the center and the state need to work together to help us, because we're absolutely obliterated.
Kalra, what do you do in a situation like this? I mean, I'm sure this is a life versus livelihood has constantly been a struggle for everyone, right? So what do you do in a situation like this? Any solutions?
You know, it's too early for me, and I'm not an expert on this at all. I can only, as a humble Indian citizen, give some inputs. But, you know, definitely the center and the state working together to come up with some form of policy framework that helps us monetarily through you know, taking actual policy decisions that help the industry survive, because we have so many problems to deal with. I mean, you know, simple things like waiving of fees, delaying of fees, access to easy working capital loans, you know, access to delaying, you know, maybe just waiving off of excise fees and excise estate matters. There are so many ESI coffers. The ESI coffers of the government of India are huge. They can be used to help. Our number one priority, please understand, is our people, the 7.8 million people that are employed. If the restaurants shut down for a long time, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. I don't have any clear solutions. I'm not an expert. But
I think, Zorawar, to some extent, these issues have been taken care of in this list of, you know, curbs and restrictions that have been announced, particularly.
You see, one of the things is things like a curfew. If my dinner business is 70% of my entire day's business, and if I'm shut for dinner, you can imagine it's complete obliteration, and it's crippling for the industry.
Okay, thank you very much. Sameer Dalwai is also with us. So is Asif Bhamla and Dr. Deshmukh. Mr. Dalwai, you know, it's your government in Maharashtra. Was this inevitable? Was this the only option available?
Well, Sanket, I'll just show you a quick picture here. I don't know if this can be seen on the screen. It just shows the peak last year at this time. This is how it progressed pretty slowly, and then it picked up. And now look at the steep rise that you are seeing now. Can you just see the speed at which it's going up?
Yeah.
At the peak of the earlier wave, we had less than 1 lakh cases a month, a day. And now you're seeing that almost more than 1 lakh for the last 7 days. So there's no doubt about it that this wave is almost 3 to 4 times larger than the previous wave. In the first wave, we saw that we had a very, very effective lockdown. It obviously had lots and lots of other problems, but we did see that it did help in some way bringing it down under control, as well as giving time for the government to bring in some measures in terms of health and medicines. The point here is man feels entitled to run the earth the way he wants. The moment there is a little loss of the fear, he feels he's entitled to walk around without a mask. He or she can go around doing what they want. And this is exactly what has happened. So when you look back, when there was a total curb, I am not in any way proponent of a lockdown or an opponent or either case. Just like, let's look at the observation. When there is a force, people will sit in. The moment you don't have a force, people will come out. Now, this is a novel virus. It means nobody has immunity against this virus because it's a new virus. As of now, the total number of positive cases in India is 1.3 crore. Out of 130 crores, 1.3 is positive. I'm sure there is a large number which already has herd immunity, and add the small number to which it has been vaccinated. The point is this: everybody is going to catch this infection sometime or the other. Let's be very honest, open. By the way, I don't know why NDTV doesn't write I'm a doctor, but maybe because I'm affiliated with the political party, that doesn't take away my medical
Dr.
degree and the
Dalwai,
fact that I practice
I will
regularly.
make that correction right away. Dr. Sameer Dalwai.
I don't, because I practice full time. I'm not a full time politician. I'm a full time doctor. And sir,
I will get that put. We'll get that put right now. Don't worry. Full respect for doctors. You are aware. I mean, you will give this much, this much credit to NDTV that we have always stood. Always stood with.
Okay, that's okay. Let me just complete. Sorry. Let
Dr.
me just
Sameer Dalwai. It's been corrected on screen right now, sir, as we speak.
All right. So let me just complete my point. What I'm trying to say here is that we have to make people understand that as far as it's not very essential, do not step out. Your question was right. How can we ensure people stepping out are those for essential services or not? And that is why the Chief Minister categorically made a very personalized, humane plea at the end of his presentation, that I would request you as a citizen. He called for a citizen curfew. He called for a movement from the citizens.
Yes.
Increase the movement of people.
My only limited question is, yes, Dr. Dalwai, I agree with what all you have said, and we've made that correction also on screen. I'm sure you'll be happy about that. But Mr. Bamla, I want to come to you now. See, when you impose curbs or when you put in curbs like these, the biggest challenge will be to implement it. The problem is implementation, and you cannot achieve it without people's support. So if people weren't listening right now, what is the guarantee they'll listen from tomorrow?
I understand the Honorable Chief Minister's press conference I was hearing with the 144 section has been imposed, and it's like a lockdown only. It's something like very close to a lockdown. But let me tell you, the people of the state forgave this for the first wave, the subsequent lockdown, the loss of lives, the livelihoods. But this time, hopefully, the people will be less forgiving, because we've been seeing the impact on ground, be it the Vyapari Sangatnas or the restaurant association people or the other business associations have come out and they've been saying, okay, we will not want to be a part of this lockdown, because you improve your health facilities, your medical facilities, add on, increase your infrastructure on those lines. But we are bleeding, we are suffering. I was just hearing a friend of mine, Zorawar Kalra, on the debate. This industry provides 7.8 million employment.
But Mr. Bamla, what do you do?
No, but listen to me. Let me
complete. In a situation like this.
Sanket, let me complete. If I may say, the hospitality industry goes by the maximum COVID norms. I won't go too far. A friend of mine who had 7 restaurants in the city has shut down the entire business, lock, stock and barrel, and he used to employ 100 people. He used to follow COVID norms. They used to have 50% of the people. I'm not saying this because I per se, you see, the food culture is a very important fabric of the people in the city of Mumbai, being the national capital, like the cities in Tokyo and New York and so on and the others. So these people are, they're going through a very, very tough challenge. The entire hospitality industry, the food, as I said, you see, they cannot sack anybody.
These issues, don't you think these issues have been addressed? Mr. Bamla, don't you think these issues have been addressed?
They can't, listen to me, they can't sack anybody. They have the government regulations are that you pay salaries, you pay your rents to your you have to pay your regular rents. There is उसमें कोई किस्म की रियायत नहीं है. तो क्या ये इतना बड़ा एक जंबो इंडस्ट्री हम अपने
Okay, so you're saying that an entire industry will be wiped out. But again, you know, this is a classic life versus livelihood debate. One moment, Dr. Deshmukh hasn't spoken. I'm running out of time. I'm going to give the last word to Dr. Yeah, Mr. Bamla, one moment. I've understood your point. Your passionate appeal for the hotel industry has been heard.
Not alone that,
Dr.
I am
Deshmukh,
saying improve the hotel, improve the medical infrastructure.
Yes.
If you still see today, if you go to the hospitals,
yeah, my only thing is that that's not something which is going to happen in a week or 10 days. But Dr. Deshmukh, very quickly, I want to come to you now and give you the last word, Dr. Deshmukh.
Yeah.
You know, you as a doctor, you and Dr. Dalwai perhaps know best how serious the situation is right now. I mean, we've been getting reports. We are only depending on reports and the footage that we see. You are seeing it in real life. Can you explain to us whether these curbs were necessary because they were a cause, the real cause was what is happening in the hospitals right now? How bad is the situation in hospitals?
Right, Sanket. In the city of Mumbai, I will tell you the exact figures on 10th of February 2021. I had the least number of critical patients in KEM hospital, that is ICU. They were 15 in number. Right now, I have 20 times the number that I had on 10th of February. This simply means that there is almost 30-fold increase in the number of critical patients getting admitted to a general hospital. Now the difference here is the people who are getting admitted are from the younger age group. Earlier in 2020, we had a population who was getting admitted beyond 55. Right now, I am worried that the younger generation, the earning members of the families, the younger population is getting admitted with a severe COVID disease, say from 15 to 55 or 15 to 35. And this group of younger generation is going to fill up the ICUs in the next few weeks. So this is the right time to impose some kind of strict actions, stringent and very strict curfew. And when I say stringent action, it simply means that 2 will not become a crowd now. 2 is never going to become a crowd. 5 and 50 you will definitely have to forget now. So I have to remain alone. I have to remain in my bio bubble, and when I remain alone, when I remain outside the crowd, definitely the virulence of the virus is going to definitely be broken down. The virulence that you see today, the chain of transmission has to be broken if you are alone. The virus is so virulent, it has crossed almost all borders. It has crossed the houses, it has crossed the city limits, it has crossed the societies, it has crossed the state borders also, and in fact the country borders. And when I say that you have to stop the virus then and there, because this is going to endanger the lives of normal people elsewhere, my medical problem, my medical emergencies are going to be a headache for the neighboring states and the neighboring countries.
Correct.
So if every state and every country adopts a one-person agenda, that is 2 is the crowd, and implement the stringent curfew that we are going to see from tomorrow, I think that's the essential thing that what the honorary
so this is
Chief
the need of
Minister
the hour
has done today.
Yeah,
yes,
I think
definitely.
Yes, so Dr. Deshmukh says this is the need
seconds.
of the hour. Dr. Dalwai, very quickly, last word, running out of time.
20 seconds to say, dear Asif Bhai, that the problem is not with the medical infrastructure, it's with the human part of medical care, the doctors. The number of doctors and nurses are limited. They can be ramped up in 2-3 months. And the second point is, look at what you showed in the graphic earlier. Now, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, the other states are showing a 400 to 500% rise. This was bound to happen. This is not a Maharashtra versus XYZ state. We have to stop talking about Maharashtra as the worst affected. We probably have to talk about it as the first person to take the fight up against Corona. And let's stop calling them worst affected states. Let's say best fighting states.
Oh, sure.
The hospitality.
Sure. Okay. No. This is one crucial issue where preferably the NCP and the BJP must speak together and stand together. See, because there are no easy answers. Thank you very much, Dr. Deshmukh, Asif Bamla, as well as Dr. Dalwai. There are no easy answers. We don't know when the peak is going to come. And also, do remember, the virus is still out there, strong and invisible. Good night and goodbye.